Number 1.
Deborah Steel, 37, was considered well-loved by her English community. She made a decent living as a pub landlady and had a partner. Her disappearance shocked residents and those who knew her. She was not someone who had reason to leave voluntarily. So, when she disappeared shortly after Christmas in 1997, people were left with many questions. The answers, policies say, lie in Ely, Cambridgeshire in eastern England. Today, Ely has a population of around 20,000. The ancient city is rich in history, with origins dating back to about 670 AD. William the Conqueror once fought here. The construction of Ely Cathedral took 300 years to complete. The church has been standing for over 1,000 years. If walls could talk, imagine what stories those walls would tell. One of Ely's pubs dates back to the 15th century and is a key location in the missing person case I write about today. The Royal Standard, located at 24 Fore Hill, started as a one-room public house in the 15th century. According to the pub's website, it is the oldest building on Ely's Fore Hill, some spell it as Fore Hill. A pub owner is known as a landlord or landlady, partly because some pubs also offer accommodations to travelers, such as the Royal Standard. Steel ran the Royal Standard with her partner, Brian McDermott. Although she made a good living, she left sometime in 1997 to set up a catering business. Christmas was one of the pub's busiest times of the year, so Steel returned to help out. Steel has a sister, Virginia Jeannie Secker, who lived in another town. She had planned to visit Secker between Christmas and New Year's Day, but she never made the trip. On December 28, 1997, Steel worked the evening shift at the pub and planned to spend the night there. However, she left around 1 a.m., reportedly after an argument. It is unclear who she argued with, but she vanished into thin air after leaving the Royal Standard. One news article states she was seen walking towards the city's train station carrying a sports bag. When McDermott awoke later that morning, Steel was not there, and it appeared she had not slept in her bed. Steel had gone missing before, but usually informed her sister, Secker, of her whereabouts. Steel never contacted Secker again. Police searched Steele's residence on Longfields, a cul-de-sac road on Ely's southwest side, and found empty clothes hangers, suggesting she had packed some clothing. However, she did not take her passport. According to the Eastern Daily Press, officers also found a map of the London Underground, with a circle drawn around Hounslow Tube Station. CCTV cameras did not catch Steel on any footage. Secker said her sister suffered from panic attacks and would not cope well with riding a bus or train alone. Steel left behind her mother's engagement ring that she always wore around her neck. Police found other jewelry as well. Her keys and mobile home remained in her home. In a public appeal in December 2017, DCI Adam Gallop from the Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, and Hertfordshire Major Crime Unit said 2 wine glasses appeared to have been recently used, and it would have been very out of character for her to not have washed up and tidy away. Police and Secker believe that Steel did return home after leaving the pub. Investigators also said it was improbable that she would have walked the 1.2 miles to her home at 1 a.m. alone. Evidence suggests Steel walked to the Almonry restaurant, where she was picked up, likely by a local taxi driver known to her, Gallop said. The restaurant is on High Street and a 2-minute walk from the Royal Standard. Gallop said he would like to speak with the taxi driver and urged the man to contact him. It is unclear if the man came forward. Authorities investigated a white Volvo seen in the area when Steel disappeared, but that led nowhere, and they eliminated it from their inquiry. The police have extensively searched for Steel, including the pub and surrounding areas. They dug up a patio on the pub's property and the yard at Steele's home but found nothing. Investigators announced in 2014 they were treating Steele's case as a homicide. Around the same time, police arrested 3 men ages 50, 70, and 72 on suspicion of murder relating to the Steel disappearance. All 3 were released when no evidence could link them to Steele's case. During the investigation, detectives questioned a prisoner at Whitemoor Prison in March, Cambridgeshire, who had claimed he killed a woman in East Anglia, a region in east of England that includes the counties Cambridgeshire, Norfolk, and Suffolk. The prisoner, who has never been publicly named, said he buried her body in a shallow grave. The woman's description partly matched Steele's. The prisoner later withdrew his confession, but investigators questioned him anyway to find the area he had spoken of in his statement. The man described the site as an unsurfaced two-lane road with a solid white line down the middle. It was mainly in a rural area and lined with a 5-foot bush on one side and a barbed wire fence on the other, the Cambridge News stated. The lead must have been a dead end because the news agency reported nothing further on it. A few days after Steele vanished, a check for £9,000 to set up her catering business arrived in the mail at Longfield's post office, but her bank accounts remain untouched. A year after Steele went missing, McDermott explained that he had not reported her missing for 5 days because she had taken off on short trips before to get a break. Investigators believe someone in the Ely area has information about the Steele disappearance. They have made several public appeals over the years, but no one has come forward, and the case remains unsolved. Steele's father, Bill, passed away without knowing what happened to his daughter. According to Secker, the last thing he said to her was, "Find out what happened to her." Steele allegedly got into an argument with someone at the pub. I don't know if it was McDermott or not, but the fact that he did not report her missing for 5 days is a little suspicious. However, even her sister said she had taken off without notice before. But would she have not informed her partner? What was the argument about? Whatever it was, she became angry enough to leave the pub and go home. She was going to stay the night there. Police believe she made it home, but according to McDermott, she was not there when he woke up the next morning. However, I'm not sure he stayed at the pub or Steele's home. Police dug around the pub and Steele's home, so I am guessing they think someone at the Royal Standard had something to do with it. I'm confused about the news article that said she was seen carrying a sports bag, which is big enough to hold several pieces of clothing. That was the only article one found that stated this, so it might be incorrect. The report did not say when the sighting occurred, but it does not fit the theory that she went home. Ely train station is a 12-minute walk from the Royal Standard. So, if she would not walk home from the pub alone at night, then she sure as hell would not walk to the train station at night either. That's half the distance of her walk from the pub to her home on Longfellows, but long enough to not want to walk it alone at night. The map of the London Underground had Hounslow Station circled. Hounslow is a suburb of West London. I think she had plans to take the train to Hounslow at some point soon. Maybe it was regarding her catering business, but someone killed her before she had a chance to go. Police said they had evidence that she walked to Almonry restaurant. What evidence? Why would she walk there by herself, even that short of a distance, at night? Almonry closes at 5 p.m. nowadays. When did it close for the day in 1997? Couldn't Steele have gotten a cab closer to the pub or outside it? It kind of sounds like she was trying to get away from the person who angered her. Just saying.
Number 2.
23 years ago, a teenage mother of 2 small children vanished without a trace, leaving behind her children and personal belongings. Kimberly Ann Riley, 19, was born on December 12, 1979, and grew up in Ohio. She resided in an apartment in the 1600 block of Cooper Foster Park Road. Riley was in a precarious relationship with the father of her 2 sons, Omar Sharif Seymour, 24. Local police had arrested Seymour once for hitting Riley, but charges were never filed. Riley and Seymour disappeared shortly before Christmas in 1998. Riley's grandmother, Vernice Akers, last saw her granddaughter on December 20, 1998, and Riley appeared fine. According to the Doe Network, she ate some ham and told Akers she would see her on Christmas Eve. Riley never showed for the family's holiday festivities. Seymour's mother, Linda D. McLaughlin Waters, then 47 years old, claimed she last saw Riley and her son together on December 23, 1998. According to her, they dropped off their boys between 2 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. because Riley wanted to do some last-minute Christmas shopping at Midway Mall in Elyria. Riley and Seymour never picked up their children. Akers became worried when she had not heard from Riley and called Seymour's mom. According to Akers, the woman gave 3 different versions of what happened when Riley showed up at her home. There is no information on the different versions Waters supposedly told. Akers and her husband, Charles Akers, picked up Riley's children and took them to their house. The boys had only one bottle each and no extra clothes, diapers, or milk. McLaughlin Waters called Akers on Christmas Eve to see if she had heard from Riley and Seymour and suggested the couple had run away together. But this made no sense for several reasons. 1. She had plans to attend her family's holiday celebration. 2. She did not provide enough of the children's belongings for a more extended stay. Finally, Riley likely would have taken the children to a member of her family, not Seymour's. Items found in the home suggested Riley had planned to be gone a short time or never left. Wrapped gifts sat under the Christmas tree in her bed. Riley did not take her medication, hair curlers, or toothbrush. The children's diaper bags and some groceries remained in the apartment. Riley took medicine for a blood disorder that affected her platelets, so it's unlikely she would have left it behind. According to the Doe Network, some items were missing from the apartment: a few blankets off the bed, 2 photo albums, the albums almost exclusively contained pictures of the children, and a big plastic trash bin from the kitchen. Riley's clothes were undisturbed, but all of Seymour's belongings were gone, save for a sock. Riley's mother reported her missing on Sunday, December 27, 1998. A few days later, she received a towing bill for Riley's orange 1989 Mazda on December 31, 1998. The car was found on a Cleveland street and impounded. Later, it was returned to Riley's mother, but did not contain Riley's belongings. The stereo was missing, and someone had moved the car seat back, suggesting a person taller than Riley had been sitting in it. For whatever reason, the police did not inspect the car until months later, in the spring of 1999. Officials found bloodstains on the vehicle's passenger side, and a few blood-stained cardboard pieces, and some hair in the trunk. In 2003, investigators tested the cardboard, and the results showed the blood belonged to Riley. Police also discovered blood in Riley and Seymour's apartment. According to Riley's mother, she had been in the apartment at some point and found a picture with the words "Die soon" written across the front. Investigators found Seymour alive and well in 2004 after being arrested on drug charges. He was later released and arrested in California in June 2005 on identity theft charges after impersonating Waters' boyfriend using the man's driver's license. Police extradited him to Ohio, and he was later sentenced to prison for parole violation. Investigators questioned him numerous times in the disappearance, but he refused to tell them anything about Riley. He was released from Mansfield Correctional Institution on July 24, 2007. That same year, Riley's mother filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Seymour, seeking $25,000 in damages. A judge found him liable for Riley's death and ordered him to pay $4.5 million to her mother. Seymour refused to answer questions about Riley's disappearance, citing his right to avoid self-incrimination. The Charlie Project states, Riley's family had her legally declared dead in 2006. It is unclear what happened to her 2 boys. Lorraine authorities have never charged Seymour in Riley's disappearance. He is now 47 years old. McLaughlin Waters died in Ohio in 2016 at age 67. I think Seymour killed Riley, and I believe his mother helped cover up the crime. I think Riley likely died between December 20 and December 25, 1998. I don't buy McLaughlin Waters' story that the couple dropped the kids off with her on December 23 so they could go shopping. I think after Seymour killed Riley, he told his mother what he had done, and she informed him to drop the kids off with her to make his escape. Then, he disposed of Riley's body and drove her car to Cleveland, where he dumped it and possibly hopped on an airplane or bus, or hid under the radar. If Seymour killed Riley, where did he do it? Police found blood in the apartment and 2 locations inside her vehicle, the passenger side and the trunk. I'm guessing her body was placed in the car when disposing of it. Police found some hair in the trunk too. Was she hurt in the vehicle and killed in the apartment? Someone had cleaned Riley's apartment, and I'm guessing it was McLaughlin Waters. The Charlie Project stated it was unusually clean. So, I think his mother helped clean up his mess. But what was the motive? Did Seymour get violent and accidentally kill her? I think that's likely. Then he panicked and called mommy to help him. I would wager that Seymour's siblings know what happened as well. Lake Erie is close to Lorraine, so it wouldn't surprise me if Seymour dumped Riley's body there. The Charlie Project states that Riley's car was found on Dease Street in Cleveland, but I could not find a street by that name or by Dicer Dease, so I left the street name out. The missing person database also says Riley and Seymour shared the apartment on Cooper Foster Park Road. I found Seymour's 1998 Lorraine address as 1682 E 29th Street. That was Waters' apartment. So, I'm not sure where he lived at the time of the disappearance. The Ohio Attorney General's website has Riley's case listed as a missing person, and the last place she had been seen at was in the vicinity of the 1600 block of E 29th Street. Why didn't investigators put pressure on McLaughlin Waters? Clearly, she had a hand in helping Seymour. And what were the 3 different stories she told Akers about what happened when Riley and Seymour supposedly dropped off the kids on December 23? I'm frustrated on this one because there should be more info available. It's like the police and everyone else forgot about Riley. McLaughlin Waters went to her grave with a deep dark secret. I hope it caused her to live with terrible guilt for 18 years.
Number 3.
Big sister Debbie Duffer has woken up every morning for the past 36 years and hoped that today her family would finally get the answers about what happened to her brother. Ian Craig Hollis, then 16, of Minto, was last seen getting into a mystery brown car outside his girlfriend's Minto home on the afternoon of May 19, 1986, and he has not been seen since. In the decades since that day, his devoted family, including Mum Shirley, now 71, have anxiously searched far and wide, questioned Ian's friends and footy mates, and even turned to psychics and Facebook in their quest for answers. It was unusual for Ian to disappear like that because he'd always say to Mum, "I'll be back in a couple of hours," or "I'll be back soon," Mrs. Duffer said. Mrs. Duffer said Ian's disappearance had affected all generations of her family. "I want answers for my children and grandchildren as well. It's affected everyone and we've all gone through hell," she said. Now 52, Mrs. Duffer, of St. Andrews, was heavily pregnant with her 3rd child when Ian vanished. 2 weeks before Ian disappeared, he was bashed in a toilet block at the community hall at Minto, and he became very concerned after that. He went to stay with an aunt in Blackett, she said. In 2013, the NSW Deputy State Coroner Paul McMahon ruled Ian had died of unknown circumstances on or about May 19, 1986. As to the place of death and the cause and manner, the evidence available does not enable me to make a finding, the coroner's report said. Mrs. Duffer said she was speaking out during Missing Persons Week because the worst thing was not knowing what had happened to Ian, who would now be 49. "It's horrible not knowing. Somebody out there knows something and we want to find out and have a proper burial place for Ian, somewhere we can go and put flowers," she said. Mrs. Duffer affectionately remembers Ian as a cheeky brother who loved playing footy for the Minto Cobras and who loved animals and collecting lizards from the nearby canal. He'd go down to the canal and catch lizards and bring them home. He'd have the lizards running around the lounge room and Mum would yell, "Get them out." Ian would have turned 17 2 weeks after he disappeared. He had finished school at Sarah Redfern High and was looking for work. Mrs. Duffer said Ian had no money on him when he disappeared, and the unemployment benefits he had been receiving were not touched. Ian was living with his mum and stepfather in Minto when he disappeared. Mum lived in the same house for 40 years, and she had the same phone number, and she didn't want to change anything in case Ian tried to find her, she said. Her mum moved to Lumia 2 years ago, but her desire to find out what happened to Ian remains. Anyone with information is urged to phone Macquarie Fields Police on 96050499.
Number 4.
April Wiss was originally slated as a runaway, but the Wichita, Kansas authorities have since changed her status to endangered missing. The 16-year-old vanished on the 11th of January, 2000. She left behind all her clothes, as well as a freshly baked cake and $150 in cash, and her social security number has not been used since she went missing. Charlie also notes that she left both the lights and the television on. Her friend told authorities that she had seen Wiss heading towards Pawnee Street and Broadway Street between 10:00 and 10:30 p.m. that evening. And after that, the trail goes cold. April was scheduled to testify in a felony statutory rape trial 2 days after her disappearance. Her mother says that she was unhappy about this, but authorities don't know if this has any relevance to her disappearance. I can find no information about the trial other than the charge and the fact that she was meant to testify. I have no knowledge of the details of the case or of its status. Occam's razor would suggest that her disappearance had something to do with the trial, but it is also possible that she really did decide to run away. Given the information about the cake and the cash, I would find that odd. Just putting aside the cake, wouldn't your average runaway take the money? To add to the case, April was going through a rebellious phase according to her mother, and was living with a friend of her mother's instead of at home. The friend, unnamed on the website, had an apartment near Pawnee and Broadway. She was paying rent for her living situation, according to this blog, entitled Mothers Are Vanishing, and the money, as I mentioned at the top, was still there. Her mother also said that April appeared happy living outside of the home and had often spoken of going to California. According to the Charlie Project, her mother believes she may have been caught up in human trafficking of some kind. I don't know what the mother's reasoning was for this, but I also don't see anything that would definitively rule that out. Were she alive today, April would be 37. At the time of her disappearance, she was 6 foot even and 165 pounds. She has hazel eyes and may possibly wear glasses and sandy blonde hair that was dyed brown at the time of her disappearance. According to Charlie, she has double piercings in her ears and a tattoo on her right hand of 3 black dots. She has scars on her left hand, a scar on her right wrist and a scar near her left wrist. There is no information on how those scars came to be there. The young woman is registered on the Doe network, which says that both her DNA and her dentals are available. As a side note of sorts, I clicked on the links at the bottom of the Charlie Project page, and many of them could not be found.